I have been debating and deliberating on this. When today in the RFP you say we don't want vendor locking,
Right.
at the end of the project you are getting into SI locking.
Yeah.
When you say I want to be vendor independent, vendor agnostic,
Right.
you come up with the RFP, you get a solution. After 5 years, and today's SIs, again this is my personal view, given an opportunity, SIs would like to even write database. They focus so much on writing code for two reasons. One, the moment you want to procure more and more tools, more and more platform, there is an outflow of money. And so long you do more on code generation, it is your services business. So that suits you. One. Two, when I am doing too much of code writing, at the end, am I really putting my non-functional requirements in place? In terms of my documentation, in terms of my change request, in terms of linking my any version of software with the corresponding RFP plus change request and all that, the delta change. So at the end of the 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you land up into a SI locking. Let's accept today in the industry, even within the same organization, if X team writes piece of code and you give it to Y team, given an opportunity, they would like to rewrite the project. I'm saying within the same organization. Now we are talking of going beyond, across system integrators. So, first thing today, any SI, incumbent SI, is that SI able to deliver your RFP, original RFP, through all the change requests and corresponding piece of software? I'm not too sure, I don't know, so I can't comment, but will SI be able to deliver? So what has happened when you have in the RFP, you have said, vendor independent, and at the end of the day you will wind up into SI. Also, and while making this statement, I think let's look at the constructive feedback, constructive input into which I think is very important. Sorry, it's very easy. Why important? But I think let's do constructive criticism. Objective is what is that we have to learn. So initially we said we should be vendor agnostic. Now we also have to say how do we make our project vendor and SI agnostic. So this is very, very important. And coming back to your original point which you are debating, because I also have to add one more point. Open source vis-a-vis open standards. I repeat myself, in a large and strategic project, the component of platform is in the lower side of the percentage, that it could be max 5%, but it typically 1 to 3%. So should we really be focusing too much on open source? One. Two. Or we leave it to the vendor to deliver. Second, I think today the focus more has to be on open standards for two reasons. One, because you have a situation that today what project is given to one SI, and again I am coming to SI independent, after 5, 6, 7 years, the same project is subject to rebuild. So that time, if you are developed on closed platform, you have a challenge to pick up a new SI. Second, open standard is more relevant today because today's applications are subject to your integration and interoperability. Days are gone when we used to do the e-governance from an internal perspective, automation perspective, departmental automation perspective. Now we have moved to stakeholder perspective. So today you have most of the applications which are thrown open to the stakeholders. One. Two, there is a gradual move that some of these applications have to exchange data, interchange data, or integrate with other applications. That is where the significance and relevance of open standard is much higher. So I think we should keep that in mind, that is where we should not confuse between open source and open standard. And if we are saying open source, then some of the fundamental questions, I think, on the government side, as in their thought process, in their evaluation process, in their acceptance criteria, I think must be factored into. And I'm not calling that risk, I'm saying perceived risk of open source must come up very clearly during evaluation process. And another thing, in the acceptance criteria. Because today if you look at most of the RFPs, they don't carry the project acceptance criteria in the RFP, while they carry the sample contract.
Right.
So if you start defining your acceptance criteria in the RFP itself, then some of these perceived notions,
Right.
risks against either open standard or open source or whatever you may call it, I think they will start getting addressed.
Can you elaborate on this perceived risk? I want to elaborate on the risk.
It's a very interesting point. Somebody says, normally people say, the project's risks are higher with the open source. Now that's a general notion. That's the reason I'm saying perception. If you ask me, I think whether it is open source stack or open standard stack, and a lot matters on what team you are putting in place for creating your architecture. Because sometimes a project with open source could be an excellent success vis-a-vis another project with open standard stack could be a royal failure. Because tool does not give you the guarantee to success. It does not give you license to success. So it is important that when you are doing your e-governance projects, or for that matter we are talking e-governance here, so strategic projects, I think lot of emphasis, and today you have mechanism of QCBS getting implemented in the e-governance project. I think lot of emphasis should be put on what is your development and deployment architecture. But there is a perception that if you go for open source, you have higher risks. I am not saying yes or no, but I am saying there is a perception like this. So my point to that is, I think risk is linked to the team which is creating the project, the team which is creating the development and deployment stack for the project. Because sometimes you can create a wonderful architecture, development and deployment architecture, even with open source, and sometimes you can do a foul architecture, development and deployment architecture, even with open standard tools. So I don't think it is the open source. So that's where I'm saying perceived risk. So it's important that we should start focusing on, like one example I'll say, in most of the RFPs we say this tool should be supplied. So this is an OEM tool, no challenge. But are you really assessing that this tool, is it only getting installed in the project or is getting configured and implemented in the project? Is it getting commissioned in the project? Now there is a difference between installation and commissioning. Now you have got the best of the tool, you have installed it, but are you able to commission it to really leverage the capability and the capacity of the tool in your project? So that's where I'm coming to acceptance criteria. I also said I think in majority of RFPs today, there is no acceptance criteria defined in the RFP. You have a simple contract to sign, but you don't have acceptance criteria. That is where, if you define your requirement in the RFP, you convert them into evaluation process especially in a QCBS environment, and followed by in the acceptance criteria. Then some of the whether it is open source or open standard, whichever the SI is bidding with whatsoever, if you can see them through, then I think we are more closer to the reality. I am not saying you are de-risking yourself or now your project will complete. I am never saying that. But at least you are closer to the reality that how the project will look out.